Hi everyone, my name is Michael K, and thanks for dropping by and watching another replica airguns video. We're taking a look at a blank pistol today. Now this is the UMAREX SW1911 S. And this particular model is based out of the US, so it's top venting. I'll go into some more detail on that as we conduct this review. Now right off the top I want to mention we do carry this gun in our US replica airgun store, so it is for sale to my US based customers. Sorry fellow Canadians, I don't have this one in Canada. I actually had to purchase this gun. Privately, it was purchased used, more of a barter than a purchase. So let's get into some of the specifications. It's a 9mm P.A.K blank shooter. It's semi-automatic. Now it does have a claimed 8-round magazine, but I was able to put 10 in here. This gun weighs about 2.2 pounds. It's top venting with a fully plugged barrel. And as you've probably already noticed, it comes in this very nice two-tone finish. Now this is a single action only gun, which is very true to the real 1911. And it's also a full metal gun, of course with the exception of the grips. Now this is a replica of a Smith & Wesson 1911. Although I couldn't find an exact match, it is a replica of a Smith & Wesson 1911. This blank gun is also made in Germany. I usually like to do some sort of a comparison, so we're going to take a look at the Smith & Wesson SW1911 S side by side with my Cybergun Tanfoglio Witness 1911, which is a 1911 BB gun. So you can see here, now they are very similar, as you can see. In many ways, very, very similar. Same basic thickness, same overall length, pretty much same size and weight. The blank gun is a little bit heavier. Now you'll notice there's a back strap safety or grip safety on this BB shooting version, not on the blank shooter. Alright, so at this point we're going to do a basic walk around and take a look at the parts and components of the Smith & Wesson 1911. On the left side you'll notice we have the branding, SW1911 S. Now there is a 1911 model without the S. Could be for the European market because there are front firing versions of this gun out there as well, but just not in the United States or North America. We also have a working slide catch release. Now I'll need to take this magazine out to make it actually go back all the way. There you go. So working slide catch release. We also have an ambidextrous safety. And we also have our single action trigger, so no double action. And it also has a true classic 1911 styled hammer on it as well, with a sort of secondary safety, so it actually stays off the firing pin when you cock it back a little bit. Okay, now you have your tactical grips on your slide on the front and the back, so the front and the back. We also have our magazine release here, and it's nice that it extrudes out of the gun quite a bit, so it makes it easy to press. You really can't miss that one, nice and big. I noticed though when I put this back in, it sort of jams there. I have to push it in a little bit, at least on this model that I have. Keep in mind it is used. I really like the grips. They're kind of a rubberized grip. So you notice it's rubberized, so if I can actually kind of pull it away from the gun because it is a rubber. But it is on there nice and firm. And they wrap around. They're really very, very comfortable. Get a good look here. Alright, so let's take a look at the right side of the gun. Now really the only markings you'll see here on mine at least, now the real only markings you can see are the 9mm P.A.K. You may notice that the barrel or the slide here is slightly different color. Now it did have some, and you might see it here if I get in nice and close. There was some white instructions with the warning instructions here. And you can see it actually does say made in Germany on there as well. But it was painted over. It's hard to tell it was painted over when you look at it really quick. It was really matched quite well. It actually shows up more in the video than it does in real life. And there's the serial number as well. Again, your ambidextrous safety. Nice. You also have your ejection port here. And you'll notice that this actual extractor is very nice. A lot of these blank guns have just sort of like a, now they do have the extractor because they have to extract the shell, but they're kind of primitive looking. They're definitely not as well done as this one is. This one looks really nice in there. Alright. Alright, so let's take a look at the top here. We have our basic classic 1911 styled sights. No white dots or anything. They're fixed, of course. Doesn't really matter so much on a blank gun, obviously. And again, like I said, we have our classic 1911 styled hammer. And in your ejection port here, you'll notice we have the hole here. This is for the top venting. That's where basically all your smoke and flame comes out. And the only thing that I really don't like about this gun is this notch that they've carved in here. And this notch, I guess, is to allow the gases to keep expelling as the slide works its way back, so that you don't have any, I'm going to try and get this closed now. We'll leave it open. And so anyways, you'll notice that that notch is there. Now when you look at the gun from the side, you don't see it. Either side, you don't see the notch at all. But when you start sort of moving it around, working towards the top, you see it. So that's the only real telltale sign to this gun that it is a top venting blank gun. Alright, so let's take a look at the bottom. Of course, we have our magazine here. Again, I'll show you this. We'll just take a look at the magazine quickly. It's a single stack, very true to a 1911 magazine. They are single stacks. They generally held about 7 or 8 rounds, and because of the single stack, and usually they were 45 autos. This gun has a claimed 8-round magazine capacity, but I was able to put 10 rounds in here. I don't know if it's just this magazine that I have, because all the specifications I've seen say 8, but it does hold 10. So theoretically I could put 10 plus 1 in this gun. Again, as I mentioned before, when you put this magazine back in, it kind of likes to bind here, so just push that in a little bit and you should be okay. There's your trigger guard. You'll notice there's no sight rail or no rail on here, accessory rail. So you can't really add any accessories unless you were to go with a trigger mount accessory rail that you can put sort of aftermarket ones on. I've seen them on other 1911s. Now taking a quick look at the front or the barrel here, you'll notice that it really doesn't port out here, so it's fully closed, it's fully plugged. You can see that there's an actual plug in there. The barrel is solid essentially inside here. Now when you buy this gun, it's probably going to have, if you buy it brand new, it's going to have a plastic red nub that's in there, and that's to basically abide by US regulations for these top venting guns. Now I'm not going to get into why there are front venting and top venting guns in the US. There are guns available, shipped to all the states from one of my suppliers. I can get these guns shipped to US citizens and they're front venting. I'm not sure exactly how the workaround works, but it's most likely to do with the fact that they're flare guns as well, and they're generally not licensed replicas, so they fall into probably more of a signaling or flare gun category. And that's generally how the workaround works. At least that's how it used to work in Canada while we could still import them. Alright, so at this point we're going to do a field strip of this gun. It does tear down pretty similar to a real 1911, although it doesn't have a floating barrel that has a fixed barrel, so it's actually a little bit easier to field strip. Alright, so let's get to it. First thing I'm going to do is take out the magazine. I like to pre-cock the hammers. It's just easier to move the slide back. Now, what we need to do is take this barrel off, or the barrel, I always forget what it's called, but this piece here is sort of a barrel shroud. There's a name for it. And you pop that out, so you rotate it all the way around until this is pointed to the right. You pop this off, and then this part here actually needs to have the point up. So normally it's all the way spun around, but you point it up, then you can take your spring right out, your slide spring. Now the slide essentially goes back and up, and all the way forward, and you're apart. There's this piece also here, and this just fits in here like this. So that's that whole piece there. And essentially you're done. So there's your slide, all metal of course, nice and weighty, and your gun with the fixed barrel. Now that part that fell on the floor is the slide catch. It's just sort of in there, right? So if you turn the gun over like I did, it's going to fall out. Let's put the gun back together. Slide goes on first. Now you can just essentially pull it all the way forward if you like. There it is. Put your spring in first. Now you'll need to have this part pointed up again, this point up, and then when you put it in, you just rotate it all the way around till it's at the bottom. You push that in just a little bit, again with this part off to the right. You put this in, spin it around, and that's it. Now you might need to just sort of, there, you might have to push that in. See how that works? When this is pointed down, it gives you room for this to go, or these points to go on either side. And that's it, you're done. Everything's done. Alright, so at this point we're going to head outside. I'm going to shoot a few rounds through the Smith & Wesson SW1911 S. I'm going to shoot in regular high definition. Then I'm going to shoot some more rounds using my high-speed camera. And I'm actually going to try using my Nikon 1 for the high speed this time. I'm going to shoot in 400 frames per second, slow it down a little bit more for you this time, and see how that goes. Then we'll head in and we'll finish up the rest of this review. Alright, so let's talk about some of the pros and the cons. Now, first of all, this is a very well made blank gun. The materials feel very good. The fit and finish is also excellent. I also like the two-tone finish. It looks very aesthetically pleasing. And I also like that the Smith & Wesson is very true to the classic 1911 style. It's very similar to the A1 style 1911 in most ways. I also like the rubberized grips that wrap around. They're a very nice grip. Again, I was able to fit a few extra rounds in the magazine, so that's always a plus. And the fact that this gun is made in Germany gives me some confidence that this gun's going to last and perform well for me for a long time. Alright, some of the cons. Of course, with pretty much any replica, the closer you can get to the real gun, the better. And the fact that this gun vents out the top is a little bit of a negative. Of course, I prefer front-firing guns. And one reason I prefer the front-firing guns is the fact that I feel they're safer. Because people expect the danger to be coming out of the barrel. And even though it's a blank gun, there's a lot of force when you fire this. There's a lot of energy coming out of that barrel in the form of the gases. And if you put that force next to an object, it can do a lot of damage. And people have been severely injured, if not killed, with blank guns by doing stupid things with them. So the fact that this flames out the top takes away a little bit from the gun as a training device, because you're teaching people that the dangerous area is the barrel. Yet, on this gun, the dangerous area is the top, so you have to treat it a little bit differently than you would a real gun. I also found that the notch in the top here took away a little bit from the realism of the gun now. It's only visible when you look at the gun directly in the top, so as you sort of rotate it a little bit, you can't see it. So if you were to put this on a wall or treat it like just a replica gun, most people wouldn't even notice it. And lastly, I found that the magazine didn't go in super smooth. You can push it and work past it, but I don't like the fact that I have to force it. So you have to push that in just a little bit to get your magazine in. Not a big deal, but I did find it a little bit unusual with this gun. Maybe it's just mine. Keep in mind this is a used gun. But I did find that I still had to push the magazine release in while I inserted the magazine as well. Alright, so that pretty much concludes this review of the Smith & Wesson SW1911 S. Also make sure to come down to the Replica Airguns website where I'll have a written review with some more photos for you to check out. Sometimes I include a few different comments or additions in my written reviews that I may have left out in the video. I'll also have a link in the description to this video and on my website where you can purchase this in the US, not Canada, but the US. So if you visit my US Replica Airgun store, you'll see it in the blank gun section. So if you're interested in purchasing one, check that out. Also check me out in Facebook and Twitter. My username is Replica Airguns for both accounts. Alright, thanks again for watching another Replica Airguns video. And until next time, take care.